promise you that this will be the least serious talk you're going to hear this weekend. And I think we should start off by recognizing Gordy Whitman, Peter Blum, Jim Cornell, and all the dorm masters who gathered us all together, as well as Jen Woodford, Don Perkins, Alicia Cornell, Jen Norton, and Laura Crawford, and the staff who really helped make this event such a wonderful experience for us this weekend. So, whatever you think this title means, I want to clear up something right off the bat. I do not have a second family stashed in Milwaukee or Salt Lake City or something like that. I'm not sending a whole other batch of kids through college. I'm married to Susan Owen, and there is no other family that I acquired by accident or otherwise. I'm sure I've disappointed a number of you already. So let's see. This way. So you know, what the great thing about this logo is it's the perfect Exeter product. It's in Latin. It's complicated enough that it requires someone to explain it. And half of it was designed 50 years ago. That's the line. That could represent a new benchmark for resting on your laurels. So, I guess by now most of you have seen a TV series based entirely on life at Exeter. The producers originally showed the scripts to the administration here at the school. They read it. They said, swords, dragons, incest. How is this going to be good for us? Louder. Oh, sorry. I'll lean on that. Thank you, Phil. So in their infinite wisdom, they wouldn't let them use the name, only the lion logo. It was going to be the Games of Exeter. Instead, now it's the House of Lannister and the Game of whatever. So the school gets no residuals, but the faculty, admissions, and the dean's office, they all got free HBO. What you may not realize, whoops, wrong way here. What you may not realize is that all the characters are also based entirely on the class of '68. There's hundreds of roles, so just look carefully. You'll see who's acting like you. And for the villains, they're better off checking out Andor. This way. But of course, with one. There is one important exception to that villain advice. Became cool. So 5 years ago, I was in Los Angeles driving around a red convertible with the young and the beautiful, my kids, pretending to be a big shot producer. 2 days later, I was in a different red car, researching a surgery team to save my life. I had just experienced an aortic dissection, which is where your aorta splits and your heart pumps all its blood into your body interiors instead of through the arteries where it's supposed to go. Now this particular affliction was genetic for me, so it wasn't anything I did or didn't do that brought it on. And I understand a number of our classmates have had the same or similar medical events. If your number is up, this is not a bad way to go. Virtually painless, it's like a long ebb tide, but it's one that never comes back in unless the doctors do something about it quickly. That painlessness was a problem because the interns and staff at the emergency center could not figure out what was wrong with me for about 4 hours. You know what they say, you get 2 families in life. The first one you're born into, where you have no choice as to siblings. Guess which one I am. Four parents, four cousins, aunts, and uncles. I looked out for all of them. My brother and my sister, my wonderful mother, who's passed away a few years ago, and my fantastic father, who I just visited a few days ago. He is 101.5 years old. He's the bridge champion at his retirement home. And he's proof that they just don't make them like they used to. He's the product of bourbon and cigars. And so then you have your second family, the one you make with the partner you've chosen and who has chosen you. And for this one, you have only yourself and your partner to credit for how it works out. Turns out that I married well, because among all the many virtues Susan has, she was the one who saved my life. She raced to the hospital and kept on them until they finally figured out what it was, pressed them until they located the right surgical team, skilled in the type of operation I needed. There's only 4 that exist in the Bay Area, and held out for the right kind of ambulance to take me across the Bay Bridge at rush hour during a Giants baseball game. So I'm telling you about this for a couple of reasons. First, if you ever have a strange ache in your chest and you find you can't stand up anymore, but you have no idea why, you might want to mention aortic dissection to the medical team in case they haven't seen one before, or maybe just across the because it turns out time is of the essence. There is a very high mortality rate with this affliction that rises dramatically with each hour that passes. When we finally did make it to the right surgeon, he looked at the chart, the time that had passed, told my wife, I don't know if we could save him. I was on my way out. Of course, if you think the medical condition is bad, try the cure. Much worse. They cut you in 2, open you up, fiddle around there for 8 hours. When you've actually survived the surgery, then you are truly all the way back at square one. You have to learn how to eat again, how to breathe again, how to talk again, how to move your body to even smile again. Sitting up is a distant possibility. Walking again is like some far-fetched dream. Nothing feels right inside. Susan never left my side during this whole time. She slept in the hospital room with me for 4 weeks while I was inside the ICU. She was the one who sounded the alarm a number of times when I started to slip sideways on my vital signs, and the medical team had to rush in to the rescue. So my second family saved me many times over, and my first family was deeply supportive as well. And during this time, I got a number of phone calls and letters from Exeter classmates, from Alex Packard, who has been a constant friend to our family since 1968, from Tony Gantner, who's been a mentor in my long campaign to become a Californian, from Bucky Stone and Frank Upchurch, from Gordy Whitman, Don Porter, and many others, including especially from Elliot Robertson, Eli. Now, in 1964 at Exeter, there were probably no 2 people more unlike one another than Elliot and me. He was my roommate. I did not choose him. He came with the room. By the end of that freshman year, we agreed to be roommates again for the next year. And by the time we reached graduation, we were surprised to see that we had been each other's roommate for 4 years. When Elliot heard about what had happened to me, he flew out right away with Diane to San Francisco to visit me in the hospital. You know, we all try to do the right thing and give those in trouble support and our best wishes. You think that's the least I can do. That time it felt to me like I was clinging to life on a sheer cliff with no way to move even remotely possible. It's very hard not to despair in those moments because the path back just seems so unreachable. I can tell you that every one of those phone calls, those letters, that wonderful visit from my old roommate, each one gave me a new foothold, a tiny outcropping on the face of that cliff that helps guide me on my way across it and up to its top, where I could finally see a road that I might walk down and thrive in again. I mean, it was my kids and Susan who really made the recovery possible. They did all the hard work, but I'll never forget how meaningful it was to me to receive the encouragement and affection of those classmates who I had first met 45 years ago. Altogether, they helped make it possible for me to have the kind of encounters today that at one point I was not sure I would ever be able to experience again. So with my second chance at life, I began to see my architecture work in a new way. And I'll share this one project with you as an example. It's called the West Oakland Walk. Quite a while ago, one of my partners, Norm Cooks, and I were providing pro bono work, design services for an athletic field in Oakland, a 10-acre sports park. We noticed that there was another park only a few blocks away, so also about 10 acres, which is unusual to see so much recreational acreage in an urban core setting. So we stepped back and noticed that there were a bunch of parks nearby, and we identified a simple circulation loop of existing city streets that linked them together. Then we thought, why not reach over to the best park in Oakland, Lake Merritt, and see if there's some connection there. In the end, we created a found design, an urban pathway that tied together 23 different parks, along with 23 different civic and publicly accessible places. This was a genuine discovery of connecting all these diverse assets of the city into an identifiable whole, greater than the sum of its parts. Oakland has a tough history and plenty of current problems. It also has lots of potential, lots of opportunity, and lots of services, which if you have the right map, might lead a young man or woman to something that might make a difference in their lives. But our crucial discovery was looking for the spiritual legacy of the city, as reflected in the histories of the individual people who had been born in, or worked in, or lived in Oakland. The amazing ledger of accomplishment. William Short, for example, was the first African-American ship captain on the West Coast. This amazing ledger of accomplishment for men and women of the past and present who could provide the next generation coming up in Oakland with role models for goals and achievement made us realize that this physical circuit could also become a deeply effective psychological pattern for creating community. We combined this fifth dimension, this metric of spirit, with the three physical dimensions, and with time, the fourth shaper of space. And that is the main point of this urban design proposal that passes through 26 different neighborhoods to use this new matrix of definitions to create community. We have all kinds of proposed physical design improvements for this 4.5 mile loop of existing city streets. But the main benefit is the creation of community. And we realize that this is what all our work is about, whether it's designing a new headquarters, drawing a dream house for a family, or setting the stage for a future high-rise. Our main goal and the greatest good we can achieve is creating environments that support community and allow it to thrive. So I was surprised that we were the only men. I was surprised to see that there were only men in the speakers lineup for these Ignite sessions. And I remembered. That we all spent some of our most formative years, from our mid-teenage to end-of-teens years, going to class together, eating meals together, playing games together, and socializing together, all without ever keeping the company of any women our own age. Try pitching that to your sons and grandsons. I think that maybe as a group we might even qualify for reparations. Now you may understand why they wanted to make a TV series about us. In fact, today, in order to find an experience that matches the conditions we lived through at Exeter, you pretty much have to process yourself through the criminal justice system. The point is, this group here, this is your third, your accidental family. You didn't choose any of these guys, nor they you. but we all ended up in the same place, facing the same challenges, same opportunities, same fears, the same teachers, thank God, the same jokes, the same songs, and the same terrible food. Sooner or later, we all experience reversals of fortune, maybe financial, maybe romantic, maybe medical, or maybe a crisis of spirit. You know what they say, it's good to be smart, but better to be lucky. I have an update on this adage. It's a very good thing to keep the company of smart people. And yes, it is even better to be lucky. But best of all is to have a strong family. When your luck runs out and there is no smart move to make, when the chips are down, when the odds are stacked against you, that's when you find out how loyal and capable your family is. And if they are, then it will make all the difference in the world for you. And may I recommend that in addition to the first and second families you naturally turn to, that you not overlook this third accidental family. It can be an unexpected resource when you find yourself in a corner. You might give them a try. I can't guarantee they'll be reliable, but they certainly came through for me. And in general, you know, at this point in life, we might all just want to be looking out for each other. So for all of us who had the Lord of the Flies experience here, I'd like to point out one thing that each of us had in common. Not one of us felt like he fit in. We all felt out of place. That's right. So with no girls in the class, when it came time to find a candidate for the female characters in the TV series, we had to improvise. Since I was the one making the suggestions, I volunteered for this part. No, honestly, I have very limited transgender ambition. But the fact of the matter is, I have to tell you, there's pretty much nothing I wouldn't do to be able to ride on the back of those dragons. One last thing I should mention. Remember when you first arrived here and they marched you down to the gym, told you to take your clothes off, and then took photographs of you stark naked? Did you ever wonder what they had in mind every boy who entered the school?
Did anybody want copies?
Well, I just learned about another reunion event not listed on the program. Turns out that each of us, before he leaves, is supposed to go down to the gym. Take off your clothes and get update photos. Then you're going to put your new photos in the individual file with your photos from the 60s. So it's very simple. It turns out to be a straightforward fundraising mechanism. See where I'm going with this. I'm going to give you a choice. Either you give to the annual fund, or they will release the program.